sons, and they're adopted by Jacob. So Israel is giving them the blessing, and Jacob brings up Ephraim and Manasseh, and Jacob, puts his hand the wrong way, and Joseph is like, no, Dad, you got it all wrong. You got to flip this because this is the older one. And he's like, no, I know that this is the older one, but the older one will be great, but the younger one will be greater. And so you get, it's a repeating pattern. This isn't just some passing thing in the Old Testament. This is like core, main, this goes right through the Old Testament and right into the New Testament, and this is just central to the whole theology, whether you're a Christian or a Jew. And again, you've still got elements of it going into Islam, from just the branch of Abraham and their theology. And I don't know as much about Islam. I've studied a little, but I don't know enough to talk about it as authoritatively as I believe I can with these other traditions, although I'm sure some people will argue with me on the and if you do have points, please post videos and responses. I love feedback. So one of the most striking features throughout the Old Testament and the New Testament is that with this chosen people, and just to give you some idea, like Deuteronomy 7:6, for thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. Deuteronomy 14:2, for thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God, and the Lord hath chosen thee to be a peculiar people unto himself above all the nations that are upon the earth. And so it just kind of continues on here, this concept of having a chosen people and separating people, and having God be kind of a key in that. To draw your minds back again to the idea of passing on mimetic and just ideas, traditions, customs, and look at the idea of the importance of that as far as continuing something on. And with that background, think about it. If you were trying to create a position, cultivate, if you were guiding, and again, this is for both theists and non-theists, and for non-theists in just the hypothetical. If you were trying to guide if you were trying to do your best to preserve people without having to wipe them out as little as possible, with like massive cullings like they do of chickens, to once disease gets so bad and you just have to kind of wipe the whole thing out, to minimize the amount of times you do that, you'll compartmentalize, and you'll even seek variety in what you have in different places, and you'll often in cases you'll preserve the purest that you can, as far as the strongest and the best, and you'll try to preserve and then properly plan and direct those things. And so you're trying to do your best to preserve things for the overall health of all that you have, of all the parts of what you're guiding. And in the idea of a God, of a benevolent God, he would want the best for all of his children, but the idea of separating them seems to go counter this in the intuition of many, and it's understandable. But so again, following me here, you have God that's separated out these people. He's got the chosen people. Depending on if you believe the Jews are the chosen, or if you're Christian and you believe it falls there. However you have it, you've got this concept in it. It's again central. It's part of the very fabric of the whole theology. Why would you have this? Why would God be doing this if he's not a respecter of persons, if he's a just God? Because if it seems, on the outside, and this will be, a response that I've heard before, and actually it has a lot in common with my perceptions, but the idea of choosing a people, not being tied to them being better, necessarily than anyone else. In fact, if you look all the way through the Old Testament and the New Testament, I mean, the chosen people are the ones that do the biggest evil. I mean, they're the ones that crucify God. The Christians, if you look at Peter, he was the one that denied Christ. You take all of these chosen individuals, and I mean, the whole history of the Old Testament is replete with them constantly turning away and becoming, you know, almost wicked and just as bad, if not worse, than everybody else. And so you're kind of wondering, well, why, you know, why does he separate this? If your chosen people is just as bad as everybody else, then why have a chosen people? And that's something that also comes up in the minds of the critics. Now, this is again another one of the points where I want you to draw your mind back to memetics and the passing and the continuation of not simply a genetic lineage, but the passing and the continuation of an idea lineage, of an ideological, of a correct. I mean, if you're looking at it again from the theoretical, this is from a real. If you're a theist, if you're looking at it from this perspective, it's the preserving of correctness and truth, and the purity of that, preserving that throughout. I mean, an example of this is if you're a traditional Christian, you believe that to some degree the purity of what you have has been maintained. Same thing is with Jews. They believe they have, sufficient purity in what they've maintained. And so there's this idea that there needs to be a maintenance in the mimetic structure, in the traditions, in what's been received for the integrity to remain. So, again, drawing this back and looking at the subset that I started out with, the Nephites, and the idea of them, God sending this group over to the Americas and automatically, kind of right off the bat, separating them. And not just separating them, but giving them a mechanism to aid in that separation. Taking one group and giving them a mark along with their cursing, but a mark that would keep the other people from mingling with them. Now, the mark seems to be somewhat different from the mark of Cain, because the mark of Cain, whatever the mark was to keep, them from killing Cain and presumably his posterity. You've got the curse of Canaan later on. So there's, again, don't get the curses confused with the marks. I think that's important, or the names, because it's just because there's given some marking to it doesn't mean the marking is the curse. Okay, so now that I showed that, so you've got in the Book of Mormon this group, they've been separated, and why? Why would God separate them? Well, if you look again, harken back to the base video that I talked about, the idea of ideas, the foundation of ideas, the formation of ideas is formed by, it happens in the youth, so it's formed by the family. The family is what creates those constructs, the way that we will perceive and filter the world, the manner in which we'll take things in and reject things. So